In this week's parasha, Parashat Vaera, we have the meeting up of Paroah and Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu now being sent back to Egypt to be the redeemer of the Jewish people. He's now coming in front of Paroah with the otot and the makot. Hashem's now telling Moshe, I know that first meeting at the end of last week's parasha, it didn't go as well as you thought it would be, but right now we're going to begin the sound and light show. We're going to bring the signs and the plagues. We're going to educate Paroah, the Egyptians. We're going to educate the whole world, the Jewish people, about the emunah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, until ultimately we have Yetziat Mitzrayim, we have the Exodus, and we get to Matan Torah. And the symbol of this first real encounter of where Moshe is now going to take the more stronger hand against Paroah is the story of Moshe and his mateh and his staff that he throws down to the ground, that Aharon throws down to the ground, and it turns into a nachash, it turns into a snake, and then after it's picked up again, it turns back into a mateh. And the pasuk says, "Vayavo Moshe v'Aaron el Paroah." They come in front of Paroah. Vayasu ken kasher tziva Hashem. They did exactly like Hashem commanded them. Already back earlier by the burning bush, we already had this story of Moshe throwing down the stick, and it turns into a snake, and then he picks it up, it goes back into a stick. Vayashlech Aaron et mateo, and in this case, Aaron throws down his mateh. Lifnei Paroah v'lifnei avada v'yid tanin. And then it turns into a tanin. It turns into this snake. Rashi on the spot tells you the tanin to a nachash. It turns into a snake. We spoke in the past that a different opinion based on Rabbi Khan and other Rishonim that maybe it's also a crocodile, different reptiles. The crocodile also was a god of Mitzrayim. Paroah is known as the Tanin HaGadol. He saw himself as this great god of Egypt. But here Rashi says snake. Let's go with Rashi's approach. And now Paroah calls over his chachamim and his wizards. And they also in their magic do the same thing. They turn their stick into a snake. But now something different happens. The mateh of Aaron, the staff of Aaron, swallows them up. But ultimately, but ultimately Paroah does not listen to them, does not take heed, does not take warning, just like Hashem predicted by the burning bush. Okay. So I want to look a little bit closer at this lesson from HaKadosh Baruch Hu of the stick and the snake. What's it really talking about? Based on an idea that I saw in Rav Zucker on his Dvar Torah Parshat Vayechi back on Shnat Tavshin Peidal. We actually spoke about this 2 weeks ago from a different angle of that Dvar Torah. So he says as follows. Says Rav Zucker, Paroah is seen in the Pesukim as well as by Chazal as the Tanin HaGadol. He represents the snake. He represents the Nachash. In Egyptian mythology, as well as even in the clothing of the Paroah, you have all this reptile imagery of the snake and of the crocodile, and you have the reptile that controls the godly Nile. So you have the godly reptile and the godly Nile. Paroah is seen as a Nachash. He's seen as a snake. Now, if we go back to the original snake, we go back to Bereshit. So the snake tells Adam HaRishon, eat from the Etz Hadat, and then when you eat from it, you're going to be like a god. And Paroah, we know, always saw himself as a god. Paroah saw himself as standing al hayeor. He stands on top of the Nile. He saw himself as the source of the Nile. The Nile was a god. Well, he's even the greater god. Another example of Paroah being compared to the snake. So we know the snake tries to get rid of Adam because he wanted to be with Chava, according to the Mekubalim. He wanted to marry Chava. Well, what do we know? The earlier Paroah tries to get rid of Avraham and be with Sarah when he brings Sarah into his palace. Okay, but let's get back to this demonstration. What's this idea of a staff, of a stick, about becoming a snake? What's the deeper lesson Hashem is trying to teach Paroah? So it says Rav Zucker as follows. Chazal tells us in the Gemara that originally the Nachash was magnificent. It was unbelievable. It stood on 2 feet. It could speak. So the Maharsha explains that the snake had a very, very special job. Its job was to actually serve Adam and Chava, to help facilitate for them how they're going to relate to the actual world. He was supposed to be like their personal assistant. The snake, says Rav Zucker, is reminiscent of the mateh. The snake is like the staff. The staff is what aids his master in walking in the world. It's the walking stick. The snake was supposed to be the personal assistant, the walking stick of Adam and Chava. And therefore, what's his punishment? His punishment for not helping Adam and Chava, for doing the opposite, for messing them up, is he loses his legs. He becomes the slithering snake that we know today. He no longer walks. He no longer speaks. He has no connection to man anymore. Man now hates him. He was supposed to be that personal assistant. Now he's as far away from man as possible. He's no longer the mateh. Now, as we're still beginning Sefer Shemot, we're in the second parasha right now, we're again being introduced to the snake. We're being introduced to the snake, but this time, his name is Paroah. And Hashem is telling Paroah, you have a choice right now. You have a choice to how you relate to Moshe, to Aaron, to the Jewish people, to Bnei Israel. You could be their helper. You could be the mateh. Or sadly, you could choose to ignore your greater mission, and you can be that other snake. You can be the next snake in the history of the Jewish people. Ultimately, Paroah hardened his heart. He didn't listen to them. He chose the path of the snake. But ultimately, we know that snake is going to be swallowed up, not by the snake of Moshe and Aaron, but by the mateh of Aaron itself. You're going to lose Paroah. Shabbat Shalom.